The H.A.T.A.E podcast.
Hello and welcome back to the H.A.T.A.E podcast with me, Benjamin Madel. Today, I'm joined by my guest, Danny Heist. How are you, Danny?
I'm pretty good, thanks.
Good, glad to hear it. As those who listen to the podcast usually know, we don't like to mess around too much at the beginning with all the small talk. So, Danny, how did you get involved in hairdressing?
Well, I'm not really sure exactly how it happened, but it happened. It was like, I don't know, I believe in energy, and something made me, I was at my mom's house, it was August, and I sat down at the dining room table and I opened the phone book, the yellow pages. I mean, that's how I'm aging myself a little bit, but, and I started looking up the hair schools, and all of a sudden I'm signing up. I was there for orientation. I signed up, and it just happened. And I'll tell you, it was just meant to be, because I mean, pretty quickly, I realized I was where I'm supposed to be, and it just really worked out.
Oh, that's fantastic. So there was never any sort of long-term plan or something that pushed you towards it. It was a case of, we'll just see what happens. Cosmetology school sounds all right. Let's have a look.
Something was pulling me there. I don't have any hairdressers in the family, so it wasn't. Through high school, I was working on my portfolio to go to art school, so it was never a plan.
Yeah.
But that day, something sat me down, and I opened that phone book, and that was it.
Yeah. So you obviously got the creative streak in you then, if you were looking at going to art school. And what were you looking to study if you were going to go to art school?
I wasn't sure. I was looking at a bunch of stuff. I was pretty open. I wanted to go to RISD, Rhode Island School of Design, um, more towards the graphic design, probably.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So there was obviously the creative streak in. I mean, when you first started hairdressing and sort of first applied and went to college, did you see it for the creative industry it was, or once you got started, or was that something that obviously came later on?
I didn't know anything about it going into it, so like I said, it just kind of it worked itself out. It's just kind of the universe put me where it's supposed to be, I think.
Yeah, I think sometimes that just happens, doesn't it? It's a very interesting profession. So many people you speak to, they were going to go to art college, they were going to go to university, they were going to study something relatively creative,
Mhm.
or they were going to be a musician or a painter or something like that, and sort of they get sucked into the orb of hairdressing, and it's not something that certainly when I started that I saw as a creative field as such. Despite the fact my parents are both hairdressers, I just saw it as a job, so to speak, rather than something that is sort of infinite creative possibilities within it. So whereabouts did you go to cosmetology school?
It was called Costumes Warwick Academy. It's no longer. I think they sold it to Empire.
Okay. And
Yeah,
whereabouts in the States was that?
Rhode Island.
Okay, so in New York. Yeah, so around that sort of area.
Yeah, close by. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you find sort of that you took to it quite easily, or did you find you sort of had to work it a little bit more?
Um, I'm a hands-on sort of person, and so if it's a hands-on sort of thing, I can pretty much start to get it pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So I got it down, you know, fairly fast.
Yeah, so you picked it up quite nice. It came to you quite easily, and then sort of obviously with the creative elements of your personality, it works. It's going to work quite well because you've got to have that certain amount of creativity to be able to do the job well. Despite the fact, if you work very technically or you work very freely, you've got to have that level of creativity, just how it comes out, haven't you? But it's interesting there. So how long were you there at the cosmetology school?
How long?
Yeah.
Well, when I was going, it was set at full time for 12 months.
Okay, so it was a year's work there. And were you working in the salon as well at that time?
I wasn't, no.
Yeah. So how did you find that transition then from being at cosmetology school and then moving into a salon environment?
Uh, I mean, it's nerve-wracking, right?
Oh yeah.
I think part of you is like, okay, so amped up, and I know what I'm doing, and I'm so ready to get on the floor and do all these things that I just learned to do, and you're kind of confident, but at the same time, not at all. Uh, so it was a bit nerve-wracking, but it's one of those things, and I would tell my students, you got to fake it till you make it, and just go in there, and that's how you're going to learn. I mean, if you let the nerves hold you back, you're not going to get anywhere. You got to just jump in and do it, and that's how you're going to learn. And by mistake, unfortunately, is going to teach you the most, I think.
Oh, certainly. I mean, it is a doing job, isn't it? You know,
Yeah,
you could read about how to build a house, but you're not very much
sure,
good if you've never actually done it.
sure.
You know, it's, you know, with a haircut, you could read about a haircut and say, oh yeah, well, you take the section like this. Until you've actually done it, it's a different animal, isn't it?
Yes.
Absolutely. How did you? So when you left, where did you go to work then? Were you straight into a salon? Did you go straight to self-employed? How did that work for you?
I did go into a salon. I went into a one of the chains, which was next to another chain, but a different sort of chain, different level, I would say. I'm not really sure. But I spent a couple months there, and it was nice because it's just back to back all day long. So it was, some good practice. And they were looking for an educator actually, and to the next door, and so that's how I ended up moving into the salon next door. It was my
Okay.
first teaching job. Yeah,
No, brilliant. So you were there. So you had been hairdressing. What's that? Let's go roughly 18 months, 2 years at that point from the start of your training through to becoming an educator. Is that how it went?
it was about probably a year and a half, 2 years. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So it's quite quick. Did you immediately find sort of a passion for educating?
Um, my mom's a teacher. My sister went to school to teach. So maybe that's the thing. I'm not sure,
Yeah,
but
that is the
I,
family trade. Yeah,
yeah,
that's it. Yeah,
yeah, I did love it. I loved it right away.
yeah,
Uh,
that's fantastic.
it was a home for me. Yeah.
Yeah, how did you find that transition, especially being so quick to do it as well? You know, in that short space of time from picking up the yellow pages and saying, "I'll give this a bit of a swing. We'll see what happens," and then 18 months later, there you are, sort of taking on people who are in exactly that same position as yourself. Did you find that transition uh, challenging at all, or did you find that also came quite naturally to you?
It was challenging in the sense that whether it was real or just nervousness in my head, you know, the people that have been in the field a lot longer than I have, looking at this young guy just out of school, what am I going to learn from this guy? That sort of thing. So that was a feat I had to, conquer. And it there was some, there's always a negative Nancy in class. You always have that sort of thing going on, but I trained under some amazing people. The company I worked for was great. And so they taught me how to work around those sorts of things. So you get through it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean that's a key thing for people to pick up there. There's always going to be someone who's got a bit of an issue with it somewhere along the lines, no matter what you're doing, whether you be teaching hairdressing, whatever, and it's just sort of not allowing it to get you down and sort of put you in a position you don't necessarily need or want to be in. So were you there teaching for a long time? Were you also on the salon floor at that point as well, working sort of a standard client base for want of a better phrase?
I was doing both. I was
Yeah.
doing So the
And
teaching was part time, and I was in the salon full time.
yeah, absolutely. And was that teaching apprentices and people at cosmetology school, college, that type of thing, or was that teaching extracurricular activities or extra classes for already qualified hairdressers?
Well, the first teaching position was an in salon specialist. So I would do the training, and then I was responsible to teach the rest of the staff. Uh,
Okay, so you would go off to like what should we call it, like a central training thing for that company. They would say this season's trends. You would then come back and educate the salon on those.
yes, yeah.
Oh, fantastic. So how did you find that being the one that be sent off to these classes, sent off to the sort of the centralized class, and then coming back? Did you find that a challenge as well, sort of, or something that was more difficult to do, sort of going off learning and then being responsible for educating the rest of the salon, or was that something you thrived in?
Uh, I don't know. It fired me up. I loved it. So to come back with all this knowledge, and it's still to this day, I love whenever I learn something new. I'm excited to teach people that are as excited as I am about what they're doing. So I always came back fired up and ready to go. And it was difficult to get people to sign up for the class, and I think it's because um, I'm the new guy. So I understood that, but
Yeah, but it all got through in the end, obviously. And how long were you working at that salon for?
I was probably there for 2.5 years.
Okay, so you were there for a little while, and then did you move off to another salon? Did you then move into full-time education? What did you do after that?
I did. I went and applied at a high-end salon, the town over, and she had told me Um, Spend a little more time there, build up your clientele, and then come back and talk to me. So a year later, I went back and I got hired and started at the higher end salon.
Yeah, absolutely. What was the difference then between those two salons, or the salons you had been working in that one? Was it quality? Was it just the way they done things? What did you find the main differences were?
It was the atmosphere. It was, I mean, the aesthetic of the place. So the expected level of service was definitely raised. Um, the bookings were booked longer. Each appointment, for haircuts, we got a lot more time, or all of it really. And everything was a little more elevated, I'd say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was sort of a step up in class, so to speak. It was, you had to spend a bit long. And at this point, were you doing all aspects of hairdressing? Were you cutting as well? Or were you just coloring? Did you specialize? Or what did you do at that point?
I generalized for probably the first 18 years of my career.
Yeah. So, but you enjoyed doing both parts, or then and sort of, or did you enjoy another aspect particularly more, a bit coloring or cutting, styling, whatever it was, and then sort of specializing later, or sort of leaning more towards that?
Um, I definitely lean more towards cutting. So, that 19th year of my career, I was in a situation somewhere uh, in a new salon, and they specialized. And so I had to go one way or the other, and I went cutting. I've always really enjoyed cutting.
No, absolutely. I'm pretty much the same as you in that regard. I've always done a lot of color work. In fact, a lot of my more known work, for a better phrase, or the sort of the more work that people have seen has been color work, rather than cutting. But
Mhm.
I think I've got this theory that I think cutting is the way the industry is going to have to go in order to continue to survive to a point, or thrive.
It's
Um,
one of those
'Cause
things that they can't do at home. They can go buy the box.
exactly,
So,
or they're only going to do it once.
yeah,
That's it. It's
there was the flow bee. I mean, there was that.
yeah.
Remember that?
What was the flow? Was that the Hoovery type thing?
You hooked it up to the vacuum and it sucked the hair out. So
That's right. I have seen the infomercials on that. Yes, yeah, absolutely. I'm not so sure that's going to be coming back at any point soon, but you never
I hope
know, do you? You
not.
never know. I'm sure. I'm sure some big conglomerate's got the copyright on it, and they'll know have no fear to bring it back if they
Right.
think there's a dollar or two in it. Yeah, that's for sure. But I do think that is the way we're going to have to go as an industry, is the cutting, because it's now getting very complicated. It's also finding the amount of people that are willing to pay for the time for the color to be complicated. That's where I feel that we're leading anyway, in regards to coloring. And it's a very, very difficult field at the moment, dealing with color and home colors. And then they definitely haven't done anything, and they have done something, and it's the expectation levels as well, along with the thing of now, which is, it's a global thing of everything. We want it now, you
That's real
know
for sure.
so it's, you can't have it now. You can have it in 6 months. Well, no, that's not good enough. It's that thing. So how long were you at the high end salon for, or your first high end salon?
I was probably there 16 years.
So you were there a long time then.
I was there a long time.
Yeah, yeah, that's a hell of a long time, especially in this industry, isn't it? That somebody stays at a salon. So you really enjoyed it there. Did it stay under the same ownership, the same management and whatnot?
The ownership was the same, but I had a family there.
Yeah. No,
I wouldn't be who
absolutely.
I am today if it wasn't for those girls.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Was it a big salon?
It was a full spa.
Okay.
So they offered massage. We had an esthetician, nail techs, and then the hair side. Yeah,
Absolutely. So how many people would you say would be working there at any one point?
we had probably upwards of 18 to 20.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
a lot of people, isn't it? In the salon industry. And it got to the point then, so you obviously, what made you decide that it was time to leave?
Well, the world is a big place, right? And so I was at 35 years old, ready to go and try something different. So I moved out to the Midwest. I was living in Minneapolis for a number of years. Um, so it really had nothing to do with. I was just ready to for something new. So
Yeah. Oh, after that amount of time, it's a big wide world out there, isn't it? And especially if you're working for someone rather than working for yourself, it's, you gave good service to the place, obviously. So so how did you find that when you moved then from sort of the New York, Rhode Island area, you moved down to Minneapolis? How was that?
Well, a culture shock, I think.
Yeah,
Uh, Now, I've experienced colds living in Minnesota. That's for
yeah,
sure. I remember the first time it snowed one year, and I'm just waiting for the call from the salon that we're going to close. And then I realized, I'm not back at home anymore, and
yeah,
they don't close for snow in Minnesota. There's no way.
yeah,
So it was a block away. It was no big deal, but I just thought
yeah,
they
yeah.
were going to close. We always, I mean, if we got this amount of snow at home, we were closed. That's
Yeah.
it.
6 foot of snow outside. No, we'll get in. It'll be fine. That's for sure. How did you with the clientele then? Was it a very much a different clientele that you found when you moved there?
Um, no, I don't think so.
Okay, so it was quite the same. It was sort of the same sort of services you were offering and the same regularity and things like that.
Yes,
Yeah, that's refreshing. I mean, it is another big city, isn't it? So
it is a big city. Yeah.
yeah, it's got plenty going on. So how did you find that in sort of terms? Was it an easy thing to move because of obviously in America we've got the cosmetology license. Was that something you had? Was there sort of was there reciprocation, or did you have to go and do extra things, or how did that work?
It's funny you asked that. So I did have to go back to school after I couldn't believe it really. Many years of working in the fields for 50 hours.
Yeah,
But they were so it was a good 50 hours. I appreciated it, and it was a nice little refresher. And I did make a client actually from the 50 hours in school
yeah.
that stayed with me the entire time I was in Minneapolis.
Oh, that's fabulous.
Yeah.
I mean, they got lucky, in a way, is they come to you self.
They were very kind to me, and they kind of let me. You know,
They let you do what you do.
it
Yeah,
was all right. Yeah, it
yeah.
was.
That's what we're looking for, Danny. That's what we're looking for. No, just let me do what I do, and we'll all be fine. That's for sure. So when you did that, and so how long were you saying? How long were you there working in Minneapolis?
7 years or so.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you were there for a little while as well, and now you're back in New York now, aren't you?
Yeah, well, I went to San Francisco after Minneapolis,
Oh, okay.
but I realized after a few years it was a little too far from home. So
Yeah,
I'm back on the East Coast in New York. It's definitely not Rhode Island.
yeah,
I'm more of a city guy.
yeah.
Love
How
New
did
York.
how did you find the move back? I mean, because this is quite something as well. Is obviously if you're working for somewhere as long as you did first time round, then you've moved again. You've moved down to Minneapolis, so you've had to build up a clientele again, and then you've moved to San Francisco as well, which obviously you're going to have to build up another clientele. What would you say was your sort of what should we say trick or any guidance that you've got for building up a client and it's from scratch your clientele essentially, isn't it?
This is my secret, and I teach my students this. So it's about the experience, and there's a difference between customer service and guest experience. There's a difference. You want to know the difference, and you want to provide both. But it's listening and truly listening and paying attention. Everybody wants to feel special. A lot of people, that 2 hours that they're sitting in your chair is the only 2 hours that they have to themselves. They have
Yeah,
family they go home to, kids or work or whatever it is. Um, and so it's listening and paying attention and just personalizing the appointment and really focusing and making it all about them. Uh, it goes a long, long way, and people appreciate it. Because I mean, you get close to these people; they're with you for years. You go through births and deaths and sickness and everything. Uh, so when they feel they're really cared for, and you're really listening, and you remember things from the last appointment, and they're not just a number, it goes a long way.
no, absolutely, I agree with you entirely there. That's thing because getting your hair cut, that hair appointment, there's very very few things that you can do where you can do absolutely nothing and have to do that. And getting your hair appointment is one of those. You can't really be on the phone in there whilst you're cutting the hair. I wouldn't be allowing that. It's you've got to sit there and you've got to relax. And I think that's why as hairdressers we do get therapist treatment most of the time, is because
Yes.
people are completely relaxed. They're at complete nothing else matters, nothing can distract me.
Mm.
And I think what you've just said there about making it all about the client is quite right. It's that paying attention, it's caring, You know, as I would find, you know, is people like it when you remember what they've been up to, what their kids have been up to, everything else, don't they?
Yes. And I mean, it really was my favorite part of the job, my career, was always seeing the client leave in a better, just feeling good, smile on her face, just feeling better than when she came in, even on the best day. You know, because I would make it my mission to just amp that up a little bit for her, because well, everybody deserves it. Let's be real.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. You know, we're in the smiles game, aren't we? Really? You know, is making people feel better than when they come in.
Yeah.
You know, which is the hard part about the therapist bit. I've spoken to people who are therapists and whatnot, and they say, "Oh, you know, it's the same job." I say, "Yeah." I said, "But people want to look better when they leave." You know, that's it.
Yeah.
It's, you know, I do the same job, but it's like people want to look good when they leave here, though. You know, that's it. You know, it's a very different thing, isn't it? So it's great. So you move back into New York. So it brought you back to be closer to home, closer to family and whatnot. And you started again. Did you go back straight working in the salon, or did you set up your new company then?
I did. So I set up my company just about 6 months ago.
Yep.
Um, so
That's
I was
the
working in a salon.
that's the Salon Education Co, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So it's been a long time dream. I wasn't ever really sure that I was going to get to go there, but I was presented an opportunity and I jumped at it because it just the world today is kind of it's different. Customer service is kind of less of a thing, I think, in my experience, and it's just something that I love so much, and I am so lucky to have had the opportunities that I had and to learn the things that I have and to work with the people that I have, and I just need to share that and build this industry up. I
Yeah,
just love it. So
absolutely, absolutely. So tell us a little bit more about what you do with the Salon Education Co.
so I see I specialize in customer service, guest experience, client building, retention. I'm also big on self care and wellness because um, it's a wearing job. I mean, working with the public in any sort, I think, is probably you know the same, but
Yeah,
we really take on people's their lives. I mean, their problems and that sort of thing, and really unload on us, and it can be a bit much. And I've seen too many people drop off, and I don't want to see that because they love it, but they struggle with this end of it. And so I try to integrate the self care and wellness into everything else that I'm teaching.
yeah. No, absolutely. I think that's a really important thing that you've said there. Is we are in a recruitment crisis. You know, of hairdressers. Any country around the world you go to, nobody can get hairdressers. Be it America, be it the UK, be it anywhere in Europe, be it Australia. You know, that it's incredibly difficult for us to get hairdressers. And I think that lack of self care that there has been in the industry in the past, I think, coupled with newer expectations of clients and how clients expect things to be, and that improved customer service aspect and things like that, it does drive people out of the job. You know, if you get the combination of today's expectations with the no self care, you know, all of a sudden it becomes a job where you think, well, and let's face it, at most points, you know, most starting points of the career, the lack of money, you know, people can sit there and say, well, what on earth am I doing? I can go and get a job as a receptionist or a data input person or work in a call center for the same money, and I don't have to put up with any of this nonsense, you know. And I think it is because there is that lack of sort of self care being taught.
It's I'm glad you mentioned that. The I'm also about teaching. I'm like, all right, I've spent the last 25 years, learning from trial and error and that sort of thing. So these students coming out, these new stylists, um, I'm going to share all the industry tips and tricks that I've learned so that they can fast track to get to that point where they're making real money a lot faster than I was able to.
Yeah.
Because I want to see these people succeed. You know,
You know, and that's it exactly. It's one thing loving the job, but there's only so much love you can give to the job when you can't pay your rent. You know, that's the thing, isn't it? It's that,
yeah.
that, that that's what I see so much of, and it's a frustrating thing. 'Cause I know yourself and I have talked, and I think we're on a very similar idea about what the industry should look like. And it's one of these things that it seems that everyone just wants to make it out to be a fun thing. you know, and it is a great fun industry.
Sure.
But,
Yeah.
you know, as yourself and I know, you can make a very good living out of it. You know, you can do all sorts of things. Women like yourself, you've lived in 3, 4 different places, you know, doing hairdressing. You know, I've lived in 3 or 4 different places doing hairdressing, you know, working in the industry somewhere along the
Mhm.
line. So it's a job where
Mhm.
you can do all these things. And, you know, I think we need to do a better job at getting that out there, that you can earn good money, and you can earn good money relatively quickly, you know, as well, with getting advice from people like yourself who've been there and done it. You know, someone who's, well, you obviously started off, you know, no clients, then you move to a city, no clients, you've got to start again, move to another city, no clients. You know, 4 times you've had to build up a clientele. So you've obviously picked up a few bits along the way.
I have the bits to share. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And where can people find a little bit more out about the Salon Education Co?
I have a Facebook group, Salon Education Co. Pro. That's probably one of the best places.
Okay.
But I do have a website, saloneducationco.com. So you can sign up for the courses, the coaching. It'll tell you a little bit more about who I am and what the company has to offer.
Yeah, fantastic. We'll make sure all the links for that are in the show notes and whatnot. And just as a rough outline, are the courses really flexible? Are they like almost a build your own course, or do you tend to work in more of a structured way?
It's really up uh, to the student, whatever they want to do. And so I definitely suggest setting up a call with me so we can kind of go over their journey, see where they're at. And I'm all about customizing a program for them. But all the courses are there available for anybody to pick and choose what they want to do. It's set up in a tier sort of way, so to beginner to expert,
Yeah,
but it's very flexible, and it's really about where you're at because everybody's different,
yeah.
so we can work it however they'd like.
That's fantastic. It's nice and flexible, because I think that's something else that sometimes lacks. You get some people who are really good at the social media side, but not so good at the interpersonal side, and
Yeah.
vice versa. For instance, you know, just for an example there, you know, and it's great that you can, you know, customize those to suit your needs. But it's been great talking to you today, Danny.
Thanks
So
so
I'll
much.
put all that in the show notes about the Salon Education Co. Thank you very much for coming on, Danny.
Thanks, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.